Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'll be replacing the spark plugs, all 6 of them, on my 2020 BMW M340i xDrive. The procedure will be identical for the rear-wheel drive guys with the M340i non-xDrive, as well as the Toyota Supras Mark V, A90 and A91 with the BMW B58 TU engines. The procedure will be nearly identical or very similar on all B58s, not just TU engines, and the general knowledge should be able to be applicable to all makes and models while you are trying to replace spark plugs in general. Let's get started. Well, the first step you want to do, of course, is going to be popping up your engine cover, just lifting, which really, wherever point you feel comfortable. These things really break. I don't want to say they don't, but really. All right, and sort of limited space. You can see just 4 grommets that's holding in place. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's corresponding to, so we can get this all the way. Well, here's 1, 2, let's see, 3, 4. So just when you're done putting the engine cover back on, line it back up, push it in, it's all good to go. So for my car, a B58 TU engine on the 2020 upwards M340i, you can see you can access the first, second, third cylinder relatively easy. But then on the fourth one, it's blocked by these 2 O2 sensors connectors, so you'll have to unplug them. Either you can unplug them from, or actually push them out from the bracket underneath, which I'm not gonna do. I'm just gonna unplug the connectors right here so that they're out of the way and tuck them somewhere while I'm finishing up the job. For the back one, you can see there is a little flap right here. And you just move it out of the way, and that cylinder will be exposed. And then when you're done, push it back into place, and it's done. That easy. But I do want to make a note of this O2 sensor connector. You can see, well, at least on the BMW, I don't know about other cars. You just unlock it from pulling it backwards, and then you press it. You see a little guy from behind, it's lifting it up. You press it, and then you just kind of wiggle it out of the way. And it's the same way when you plug it back in. You see how now this guy, the white tab's exposed? It wasn't before. So when you put it back, push it back in, push it a little bit more so that it's not exposed anymore. You can hear a little bit of a click sound. Once you're done, push it back into place, you're good to go. Or else if you don't, let me see if I can wiggle. If you don't do that, right? Okay, you hear the large or the loud click sound, means the connector is back in, but it's really hard for you to push it back in for the locking tab. You will have to push it for a little bit more. See, now it's not exposed, then it's done. For the wiring connectors for the primary and secondary O2 sensors right here, like I said earlier, I would prefer to undo them at the connectors above, or above me, which is here and here. But like I said, As well, there is a method to undo it from the bracket after all. So let me see if I could demonstrate it to you. How does it work? You should see there is a tab right underneath. Well, let's just say the right white wire right underneath there. There is just a hook that's hooked onto the mechanism. And then I have a pick right here that's gonna help me to guide it out. All right, so it's out. Basically what I was trying to do, you see there is a little hook right here that's hooked onto the bracket so that it doesn't move. It does wiggle, but it doesn't move out of the bracket. I was trying to use the pick to unhook it to, I guess, to this side. I use my finger better. Just unhook it so that it leaves the bracket, and there is done for it. I believe this is the primary, and then the secondary, it's gonna be the same, but I have a worse angle with the camera in a way, but the principle is gonna be the same. I don't think I'm gonna try to do it this way anyways. This is not the way I was trying to do, just trying to demonstrate it. It would be beneficial if whoever is trying to remove their downpipe, because you'll have to undo both auto sensors as far as I'm concerned, so that you will be able to plug the auto sensors onto your new downpipe. But like I just just what I did there, reverse the procedure, because I was sliding it in front of towards this direction to push it out. So you just slide it inward towards yourself or myself to lock it back into place. So it, like I said, it wiggles, but it's not going anywhere. Next I like to do is to remove the wiring connector to the ignition coil. I think you may have the best viewing angle for cylinder 2. That's what I'm gonna do. To remove it, first of all, you would want to pry lightly on this locking tab. So once it's open, normally you would just press on the locking tab and it should release by theory, but normally it's really difficult for it to release because it's plastic, heat contraction and whatnot. Again, also using a flat head, pry lightly once again because everything is plastic, and then actually not pry, just to twist it, and then it comes right off. Remember, while you're twisting it, you'll have to press on the locking tab as well. Not sure if you can see it. The little guy actually moves a little bit so that it unlocks from this locking position on the ignition coil. So yeah, I'll do that for all 6 of the cylinders. And to lock it back in, you just push it in until you hear the audible click, and then you push in the locking tab. That's it. Next, we're going to remove the bolt that's holding the coil back in. You can see mine's gonna be an E8. Sometimes it could be a 10 mil, could be something else, but let's get the right one and remove the coil pack. For my car, you can not exactly remove the bolt. It's just gonna be stuck in there, which is good. I'm just gonna tug it out of the way. So you can see it's already, you can wiggle it. So now you're just gonna pull it off, like, I'll say like so, but I'm probably gonna need 2 hands. Well, after some struggling, this is gonna pop like so. So you can see coil packs out, spark plugs just right there. But before we do so, we just want to make sure that we're cleaning the whole what's inside, just in case any debris that's in there can fall out. So for this purpose, I'm just gonna use a can of compressed air because I don't own a compressor, unfortunately, yet. But that'll also do the trick. This should do it. We are going to remove the spark plug now. I have a magnetic socket right here, so the spark plug is just gonna stick onto it when I remove it or when I'm putting it in. Pair that with an extension, pull it into the hole. You see it grabs. And we are going to remove it. Before we do so, I just want to make sure it's my personal preference. I always have my new spark plug that's ready right here, so that when I remove it, I can quickly put it back in. So I'm not going to be wasting time looking for the new spark plug, placing the old one, whatnot, because you will have a hole that's leading directly to your engine, just in case any dust, fallout happens to go inside. Who knows what's gonna happen? It may not be good, probably not. So just make sure you have it handy. Again, it's personal preference. You can do what you want, really. Now should be able to loosen it by hand. Probably gonna take a while. It's a long thread hoeing. I think it's out. There's my old one. Honestly, not so bad. Do an overall view after we've removed all of them. Here goes a new one, magnetic socket. Pops it in, just like that. It's not gonna fall. Just also make sure you are hand threading it when you are just first tightening it, so that you're not cross threading the spark plug hole, which can be a lot of work. This one's going smooth so far, which is great. I feel like it grabs, so I'm gonna pull it out to make sure it's seated. It is. So next we are going to torque it to spec. Mine is going to be 23 Newton meters. Almost there. 23.2. within spec. All right. And we're just gonna reverse whatever we have done. So which is putting the coil pack back in, plugging in the connector, actually also to bolt down the E8 on mine that's holding the coil pack in. We're all set for cylinder 1. Alright, so here's our coil pack. Kind of align the holes that you have for the bolt, push it in. I'm just gonna grab the spark plug. I feel like it's seated already. And then we are just gonna make sure it's seated tight and tighten the bolt down. My hand is probably in your way. There is a torque spec on the bolt, which is basically hand tight, which is what I'm going to do. Don't over torque it, still plastic on plastic, at least on mine. There should be plenty. I don't feel like it's going anywhere. Sorry. Grab the connector again, plug it back in, push it all the way. Really just a BMW thing. If you have another make, may not be like that. I hate these plastic connector, but that's what we're left with. All right, so we're good for cylinder 1. Moving on to cylinder 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is gonna be the same procedure. I'm just going to quickly do it. All right, now that we have buttoned up everything, well, in terms of spark plugs and the coil bags, as you can see, I still have my connector that's still unplugged because I'm gonna go over once again that I have plugged back in whatever that I've removed or unplugged to button up everything before I start up the car. So yeah, just make sure you do all that before you actually do start the car so that you don't get any misfire, funny issues. If you're doing it for the first time, a helpful tip for you is to line it back up for the oil filler cap. Once you do so, most of your tabs should line up already. And once right here, you just push down, which I just did, barely any force. And then run right here somewhere. Oh, it's here. One should be here. 4 taps or grommet push back into place, and it's not flopping around anymore. And then you're all set. Let's take a second to talk about the spark plugs I'm going to be using. I will be using genuine BMW spark plugs for my vehicle. This is the part number 121224555258. They are champion plugs. They are not NGKs. I have seen people running NGKs without any problems for years. Well, until they change spark plugs, of course. That's also a viable option, but just for me, I like to play it safe. I'm using BMW champion plugs. If you can get champion plugs from another source that's not from the dealer, I'm sure it will be way less expensive. But at the time I was purchasing new plugs, I couldn't find anything that's champion outside of the BMW dealership. So that's what I'm gonna be going with. I'd like to mention 2 tools I think it's essential to have when you're attending a spark plug job that nobody seems to talk about. So I'd like to say that most, if not all, plugs come from the factory pre-gap. That's true. I'm talking about pre-gap from the spark plug factory, not from the car manufacturer. When you are buying them to service them, that's what I mean. But during the shipping process, anything could have happened that would damage the plug gap that would eventually leading towards misfire of your vehicle. Even though they are all pre-gap, I would still double check the gap to make sure it's what I needed. So the first 2, or actually I would share a story as well. I bought these plugs, 6 of them, all brand new from the dealership. There is one that's way tighter in gap than the rest of the 5 of them. So that's why I had to pull it a little bit and then use one of the tools to tighten it back up, just to make sure that I'm in the right spec. So I'm using an old plug here, so I don't look here if I gap it improperly, it's not going back into the vehicle anymore. So the first one being the gap checker or filler. So there is a tiny rod in here that you would shove it into the spark plug to check the gap. It's also got measurement in here to tell you. I believe this one I have is 0.03 of an inch. I know my car takes 28 to 0.030 of an inch for stock gap. So I'll just put it in. It's barely going in. It's really hard to focus, but it's barely going in. I know it's very close. I will just use the next one down to check so that I'm between spec. So this is the filler gauge, and I have this one that's precision gapping tool. So this is thread specific, so just make sure you get the right one for yours. You just thread it in above there, right? So not touching, just barely touching. And you would just turn this knob over here. This is separating it, and this is tightening it. And then you would tighten it tiny bit, and then you would check the gap again, tighten it more as needed to make sure you have the gap that you need. And then after you're done, unthread it, and you have a properly gapped spark plug. So these are the tools I think is essential to have. Also, something to mention is that the tip over here, try not to damage it, because that's gonna also affect your gap, and eventually, like I said, it's gonna lead to misfire and whatnot, all kinds of funny issues. So use the proper tool for the job. Just out of heard up, RPM seems stable and no fault code whatsoever. So the plug replacement was a success as far as we can tell. So I think we can conclude the job. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked the video, learned a thing or two. Like, comment, subscribe. If you do have any question, let me know. I'll try my very best to answer you. Alright, hope you have a good day, wherever you are, whenever you are watching.